30 who?
33.
Oh, I was in the right place. Yeah, correct. You're right. Okay, so the Gemara had a question we left off yesterday was, let's say you have witnesses that come to testify about a knas. A knas is always something which is more than, it's either more than the usual or the set amount the Torah requires you to pray, 50 shekel here, 100 shekel here, 30 shekel here, whatever it is. So those witnesses that come and testify about a knas, about a penalty. So Mahu, we'll just start from the Gemara again. So Mahu, what's the halacha? So says the Gemara. Okay, now 1 second. So the introduction was there's a rule. The Gemara is out from a verse. By a penalty, if you come and admit that you did something wrong, it's called modeh b'knas. You admit to the penalty, you are exempt. Right? If you steal money, let's say, so the principle, you can come and say, yeah, I stole it from today until tomorrow. It doesn't mean anything. You stole it, you have to pay back. But the penalty you'll be exempt from. It's special. Then modeh b'knas is pater. Now, what happens if two witnesses come afterwards and say that you're liable? Are you still exempt from paying the penalty or not? That's two opinions. So, Ali b'der b'lazar Reb Shimon lo tibayil. The Amar Yavo Edim Yeidu. Kiti bayilach Ali b'der Rabbanan darim modeh b'knas v'achabo Edim pater. According to Reb Shimon, as long as two witnesses come, even after you admitted that you did something wrong and you're really exempt from the penalty, but two witnesses come afterwards and testify, you are going to be liable, even for the penalty. So according to them, we don't have a question. According to that opinion, if two witnesses deny testimony about a case involving a penalty, then they are found to be liars. Then they are going to be subject to the rules of this oath of a Shavuot Eidos, an oath of testimony, and they're going to have to bring a sacrifice. However, according to the Rabbanan, the rabbis hold, once the guy walks into court and says, I stole the object, it was me, I'm the robber. So the principle you have to pay, now you have to pay. However, the penalty, you're going to be exempt, even if witnesses come afterwards. Now, that's one. Two, v'rabbanan dahasam kiman svir lahu. Now, another thing is that we learned on the previous Amud that there are two opinions involving not direct financial loss, but causing a financial loss. The case was by Sota that a witness comes and says, we saw her secluded, right? So now that prohibits her. Now she will lose her ksuba. That's called a davar hagorim lamamon. It's causing financial loss. It's not saying, he stole, but you're saying something which will cause a financial loss. So the Rabbanan over there that exempt a person from paying the penalty as long as they admitted to it, even if two witnesses come afterwards, in that dispute of this causing a financial loss, not directly, but more indirectly, do they hold you're obligated? Is that like causing a direct financial loss? Or that's not like causing a direct financial loss? So Rabbanan dahasam kiman svir lahu. Who do they hold like? Well, if they hold Reb Shimon dahacha, the top of 32b, hakamar davar gar lemamon kim amam dami. He said something which causes a financial loss. That's like causing a financial loss. Even if you cause it, even if you testify that she's a sota, now you're causing her to lose her ksuba. So that's the same as directly testifying on somebody that they owe somebody money. That's the same thing. So this case can't be worse than that. Here, what you're doing is these two witnesses, if they were to admit that the guy owed money, right? So our case here is the guy didn't admit to a knas yet. He didn't admit that anything. It's just a case of a penalty. So two witnesses come and testify about a case of a penalty. So it can't be worse than causing someone a financial loss because the guy has not admitted that he did anything wrong yet. So he's not exempt from the penalty. So if the witnesses would have come and testified that the guy owes Reuven owes Shimon money, let's say a case of robbery, Reuven stole from Shimon. If witnesses would come and testify, you'd have to owe him the principal and the penalty. So If they lied, so then, and if they found to be lying, if they say that we don't know testimony, and they're found to be lying, you're for sure causing financial loss. Because if you would have testified, Reuven would have paid Shimon money. The fact that you withheld testimony, that's for sure causing a financial loss. So, if you hold like Rabbi Shimon, that even things that cause financial loss, it causes a financial loss, like the case of the Sota, this case can't be worse than that case. They're for sure causing financial loss. By withholding testimony, they're indirectly causing a financial loss, because if they would have come and testified, then the guy would have been liable. So according to him, we don't have a question. But let's say according to the rabbis over here, the rabbis here hold that no, indirect causation of financial loss is not considered a financial loss. You have to testify Reuven stole from Shimon. You can't say, she was a sota. Ooh, now she's a sota. One step later, she can collect her ksuba. That's not going to work. According to them, that's our question. How do you view the witnesses that are testifying about a case that's involving a penalty? What are the two sides of how to look at it? Well, cave and the ilu moda. On the one hand, if the guy would have opened up his mouth and said it was me who stole the object, he would be exempt. So what do you see from there? It's not really like a financial loss because he could have gotten out of it. Usually, I owe you $100. That's it. There's no getting out of it. But since if he would have opened up his mouth and said, I stole, he would have been exempt from the penalty. So maybe that shows you that the penalty is not fully it's not a full loss because he could have gotten out of it. That's on the one hand. If he would have admitted, he would have been exempt. So that's not necessarily the same as a regular financial loss. Since if the guy would have admitted, he would have been exempt when two witnesses deny knowledge, deny testimony, that they don't know anything about the case, so they're not really denying things about money. We think of money means dollars. But mammon, in terms of the way the Torah views mammon, that's an absolute case of mammon, where there's no way out of it. A guy owes somebody $100. There's no way out of it. If you deny testimony on that and then are found to be a liar, you for sure have to bring a korban, bring a sacrifice. This case, it's not necessarily money, because as long as I would have said I stole, I would be exempt from paying the penalty. So the penalty, which is what we're talking about, on the one hand is not like regular money, because there's a way that the guy could have been exempt from it. On the other hand, Odilma hashta mia lo odi. On the other hand, if the witnesses come and they deny testimony about a penalty, well, if they would have testified, the guy would have to owe him $100. So Reuben stole from Shimon $100. Really, what would happen? He owes him $200, $100 for the principal, and then double is the penalty. So now, how do you view the penalty? Well, if Reuben would have walked into court and said, I stole, he'd be exempt from the penalty. So if the witnesses now, before no one said anything, witnesses come and they deny that they know anything about the case. So is that considered that they're really preventing that second $100 from being given over? Well, sort of yes, sort of no. If Reuben would come and say, I stole, then Shimon would never get the $100. So on the one hand, it's not real, it's not a real financial loss. But on the other hand, if the witnesses would come and testify, Reuben stole from Shimon, now Reuben has to pay the full $200. So it's somewhere in the middle. So that's the Gemara's question. What happens by Eidei Kinas? Remember, our case of Shuas Eidos, just a reminder, the oath of testimony is witnesses deny knowledge, they deny testimony on something involving a financial matter. Do you know that Reuben owes Shimon $1 million? We have no idea. Never heard of Shimon, never heard of Reuben. Leave us alone. A week later, they come and they say, we were lying. We were the witnesses on the case. I'm sorry. Right? So then you're subject to all these rules of you're about to bring a sacrifice. So, but if they deny things about a knas, about a penalty, we're not sure. So now we're going to attempt to bring a number of proofs from our Mishnah. Tashma, it's pretty compelling proof. Oh, don't worry, we'll still get out of it. Mashpia ani aleichem. They say the plaintiff tells two witnesses, make a shvua in lo tavo b'tzidiuni sheish lecha biyad ploni nezek. You better make a swear that that you don't know any testimony that I owe, and that I guess that he owes me any damages, that he damaged my car, or the chatzi nezek. The chatzi, what's chatzi nezek? When right, you have two kinds of oxen. So one is wild, one is tame. A wild ox is called a shor muad, and then a tame ox is called a shor tam. Thank you. So if a shor tam damages, you don't pay the full damage, you pay half damage. Half damage. Now, right now, the Gemara assumes that half damage is considered a penalty. Why? Because the Gemara Bava Kama has two ways to look at how you're supposed to, how we treat a shor tam. On the one hand, you'll say, it's a tame animal. If it damages something, you should be totally off the hook. The cat ends up, killing somebody. Like, that's so crazy, right? So really, you should be off the hook. But the Torah put a penalty on you. You should have done a better job watching. That's on the one hand, if that's true. So if you should be exempt, the Torah made you pay, that's called a penalty. That's called a knas. On the other hand, you'll say, no, you have to watch your animals. And really, if it damages, you should pay the whole price. Just the Torah had mercy on you, so only cut it down to half. Well, if that's true, then the half payment is not a penalty anymore. That's part of what you have to pay. The Torah is nice to you, but it only gave you half price. It only made you pay half price. So right now we're assuming that chatzi nezek is a knas. It's a penalty, which means that you have an explicit Mishnah telling you that if two witnesses come and they deny testimony in a case of paying half of damages. So Reuben says to two witnesses, you come testify that that Shimon's tame ox, damaged my ox. And they say, huh? I don't know who Shimon is. Sorry. And they deny testimony. If they're found to be liars about this case, our Mishnah says that they're liable. So what does that show you? That even denying testimony on a case of a penalty is enough, is subject to the offering that one is required to bring if they deny testimony which then causes a financial loss. So says the Gemara, it's a penalty. So says the Gemara, no, not necessarily an ironclad proof. Why? Because we're going like the other opinion that really paying half damages is not a penalty. It's really paying the principal. You should really be paying the full price. The Torah has mercy on you and only makes you pay half price. Therefore, you can't bring a proof. Says the Gemara, okay, fine. So according to that opinion that says that paying half price is mamona, so is paying the principal, paying half of the principal. Okay, so we can understand our Mishnah, there's no proof. But according to the opinion that says that it's actually a knas, it actually is a penalty, according to that opinion, can you bring a proof from our Mishnah? Or is our Mishnah not a proof at all? So says the Gemara, according to that opinion, that palga niska, paying half of the damages of a tame ox is a penalty, you can still get out of it. There's still no proof from our Mishnah. Why? Maybe when our Mishnah said chatzi nezek, it was referring to a very specific case. What was the case? Bechatzi nezek tzroros. It's when the tame animal goes and kicks rocks, and those rocks end up damaging somebody. So that's the hilchasa gemirila the mamonahu. That is a halacha Moshe Messina. That is considered not a penalty. That's considered a regular principle. Meaning, according to the opinion that really you should be watching your animals, even your tame animals. And if a tame animal damages, if your tame animal damages, you should be exempt. But the Torah gives you a penalty, and therefore the half damage is considered a penalty. However, if that animal goes and kicks stones, and the stones go and kill somebody, that's a special exception to the rule that you are liable. That is considered paying the principal. That's not considered a penalty. So when our Mishnah says that two witnesses deny testimony about a case of paying half damages, maybe it's referring to that case. It's referring to the case where the tame animal went and kicked stones, and that killed somebody, and that is not considered a knas. That payment is not a penalty. That payment is considered paying the principal. So even according to that opinion, you don't have a proof from our Mishnah that witnesses that come and deny testimony about a case of a penalty are going to be subject to the sacrifice regarding are going to be subject to the sacrifice that one is liable in this case. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Once again, we're trying to figure out if two witnesses come and deny testimony about a penalty, and then they're found to be liars. Are they liable, or are they not liable for this? For bringing a sacrifice or violating the oath of testimony? Let's bring another proof of our Mishnah. Tashma. Our Mishnah mentioned a case, Tashlume Kefel, paying Kefel. Kefel is a penalty. Really, you're supposed to pay the principal when you steal. Here you pay the principal and you pay double. That's a penalty. And yet our Mishnah says, and witnesses deny testimony about Kefel, about a penalty, they're still going to, and they're found to be liars, they're going to be liable. Says the Gemara, Mishum Karna. It's a funny thing. It only mentioned Kefel, but it was really referring to the principle itself. There's a way to refer to the principle itself. Okay, what about Betashlume Abra B'Chamisha, which says that if you come and you deny testimony about payment of 4 or 5, right? If you have an ox or a sheep that you stole, slaughtered, and sold, so then you're liable not only for the principal, but you're liable to pay 4 or 5. That's considered a penalty, and yet our Mishnah lists it. Says the Gemara, no, Mishum Karna. That's also just a way to refer to the principle. It's not necessarily referring to the actual penalty. So you can't bring a ironclad proof from our Mishnah. Okay, but the Mishnah does mention a case of Sha'anas Ish Ploni Upita as Biti, that there's a case where somebody raped or seduced someone's daughter, and for both rape and seduction, you pay a penalty. Says the Gemara, no, when it said that, rape or seduction, it was referring to not the penalty payment, but the boshes upagam payment. Boshes is embarrassment. Embarrassment all depends. There's no set price. A knas is always a set price. Double, 4 and 5, 30, 100, 50. Here, embarrassment always depends on how much you were embarrassed. So there's no set price. And pagam, at least according to Rashi, is referring to that you have to pay less. It's literally pagam is it means to it's depreciation. Depreciation. Yeah. Loss in value. Yeah. Right. That's application, but yeah. Okay. So a pagam here, you'll now that you're not a virgin, you have to pay less of the ksuba. Okay. So, but it's not referring to the penalty payments. Fine. So says the Gemara, you just knocked out every case of knas. So that's my kamash malon. Kula mamonahu. You just happen to list the 5, 6, 7 cases that are all referring to the principle and telling me that in each of those cases you're liable if the witnesses deny it. So I have a much easier way to write this. If witnesses deny anything regarding money and they're found to be liars, you're liable. Why are you listing so many cases? Says the Gemara, basically the answer is going to be there's going to be a novelty in one case in the beginning and one case in the end, and therefore we end up teaching the cases that are similar to that one case, even though it's really unnecessary. And we taught cases that are similar to the end, even though they're unnecessary. But there's going to be a novelty in the beginning of the Mishnah, a novelty at the end of the Mishnah. So those 2 cases we had to teach, and the middle cases were brought, parenthetically. That's right. So they for sure had jewels of mine when they wrote the Mishnah. Yes, they did. So my kamashman kula mamonu reisha chada kamashman the seva chada kamashman reisha chada kamashman. The beginning of the Mishnah tells you a novelty. What's the novelty? The chatzi nezek tzroros mamonu. It's coming to teach you this, that the chatzi nezek, the half damage that you have to pay if your tame ox goes and gores someone else's animal, that you only have to pay that you pay half damage. If it kicked rocks and the rocks killed somebody, it's coming to teach you that's considered money and not considered a penalty. That's one novelty. Seifa chada kamashon that what b'shiddik asakdisha b'yom kippur lafuke mai lafuke medrabin chuni ben akana. The Tanya b'chuni ben akana haya osem kippur kishabas the tashlumin ma shabas chulei. So what do we know? That if you're liable a death penalty and at the same time you're liable a death penalty, you also cause financial damage. You're going to be exempt from paying the damages because you're liable for the death penalty. Now, simply understood is referring to death penalty of capital punishment, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana is of the opinion not only capital punishment, even punishment in the hands of heaven. Kares. I think it's a machlokas and ksubas that's referred to. Kares and misa b'dei shemayim, two forms of heavenly punishment, or only one or only the other. But on Yom Kippur, a guy goes, and you know what? You were the chazan, and he really couldn't stand you. You know, he had to listen to you the entire day. So, you know, before Ne'ilah, I had enough. And he goes to your yard, and he takes out a match and lights a fire and lights your yard on fire. Yeah, and you can't kill Jared. Jared's not available. He's already busy with another guy who lit someone else on fire. So Jared's out of commission. So what do you have to now? What's he liable for? On the one hand, he damaged your property, so you got to pay damages. Problem is that when he lit the fire on Yom Kippur, he's liable kares. So at the same time, they're really like a second apart. You're saying he lit the fire and then he lit the but I guess he had a fire already maybe, and then he lit your and then he went and he lit your grass on fire. So he at the same time that he's liable for damage, he's liable for death penalty from heaven. So therefore, you're going to be exempt for that. Our mission teaches you that our Mishnah teaches you, though, not like that opinion. Why? Because our Mishnah says if two witnesses come and deny, said, "Hey, weren't you guys live next door? Did you not see that guy's field get burnt on Yom Kippur?" They're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then they come and they say, "Actually, we're lying. We knew exactly what happened." The Mishnah says they're liable. They're liable. Now, this oath that we're talking about, you're only liable when you've denied something which causes a financial loss. So if lighting a field exempts you from a financial loss, then the witness's denial they should not be obligated to bring this sacrifice. Yet our Mishnah says, the last three words of the Mishnah, they are obligated. Why? What's the novelty is, the Mishnah is coming to exclude the opinion that when you do something which is liable kares, at the same time you're liable damages, that you're going to be exempt from the damages. Our Mishnah holds that's only true by capital punishment, but by kares punishment you will be liable for the damage. That's another novelty that is taught in the Mishnah, the last case of the Mishnah. So once again, capital punishment and damages, you're exempt from damages. Punishment in the hands of heaven is a machlokas. Our Mishnah says you're going to be liable for the damages, you're not going to be exempt. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana he says that you will be just like Shabbos. He makes Yom Kippur like Shabbos. Just like Shabbos, when you're liable for skila, stoning, you're exempt from damages. So to Yom Kippur, when you're liable for kares, you're also exempt from damages. Fine. So so that's the novelty of the Mishnah. Tashma, another attempted proof that if witnesses come and deny testimony about not a regular financial case, but about a penalty, about a financial penalty, are they liable or not? So another attempted proof. Tashma mashbiani aleichem in lo tavo turning the page. Shehotzi ish ploni shemra al biti. So a guy, if a guy comes the morning after his wedding and he comes and slanders his wife, and it's probably not a good idea for having shalom bayis. He comes and slanders his wife that she actually was not a virgin. So now this father is saying, you better come and testify, that you don't know testimony that this happened to my daughter. So now, if one slanders somebody like that, he has to pay 100, and he's found to be wrong, he has to pay 100 kesef, 100 shekels, not 100 shekels, but 100 mana, 100 mana. So that's a penalty. And yet, what do we see? We see chayavin, that the witnesses are liable if they come and deny testimony about this case. And then they're found to be liars. They're liable. So what do you see? Testifying about such a case, you are liable. So says the Gemara, Hoda mipi atzmo pater. Okay, but if the guy comes himself and he admits, it was me, I incorrectly, not incorrectly, I guess he himself comes. Yeah, he comes to this Bezdin and he says that you should know, yesterday I went to another court and I slandered this woman. So then he's going to be exempt from paying the penalty. Okay. Now it sounds like he's going to be exempt from paying the penalty, even if witnesses come afterwards, he's still going to be exempt. So like this. So there's two cases here. The first case is when two witnesses come and say that he's liable for slandering. So then they come and they deny testimony about this person who slandered his wife, and then they're found to be liars, that you're liable, even though if he would come himself and admit to it, he would be exempt. So it sounds like it's a regular case of a knas, and yet you're going to be liable. So says the Gemara, how many Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimoni. Really, this brisa is goes like the opinion of Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon. The Amar Yavo Eidim B'Ya'idu. Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon says that here we had it a few minutes ago. He says that even if after somebody admits that they did something which gets them a penalty, even though you should be exempt, but if two witnesses come afterwards and testify, then you're going to be liable. So the Gemara starts off the whole discussion today that we're not asking according to that opinion, because according to that opinion, you're always viewing testimony about penalty as regular money. Because even if I were to admit I did steal and now I'm exempt from paying the penalty, but if two witnesses can come and they can override me. So we're never asking according to that opinion, because according to him, two witnesses will always come and be able to obligate you, even if you'd already exempted yourself. So we're saying this brisa is going like Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon, and according to him, we don't have a question. So says the Gemara, it's going according to him, but it says Ema Seifa hold the outside putter. But the end of this brisa you just brought told us that if he admits on his own, he's going to be exempt. Sounds like he's going to be exempt even if witnesses come afterwards. That's not like Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon. That's like the Rabbana. According to Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon, if you admit that you're liable and now you're exempt from the penalty, if two witnesses come afterwards and say you actually did steal, so you're going to be liable to pay the penalty. So the end of the brisa sounds like you're exempt always, even when two witnesses come. So that's like who? A solar Rabbana. So says the Gemara, okay, hold on. Kula Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon. The entire brisa is Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon. The Hachikamer, and this is what it means to say. Lo mishkachas lahodim epiatzma the pater elahecha daleka edim klal lahodim atzma. All the brisa coming to say is, if witnesses come and then say you're liable for either slandering your newlywed wife or for stealing or any case involving a penalty, if witnesses come and deny testimony about that and then they found to be liars, of course they're going to be liable to pay, because they're going like Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Dovid Rabbi Shimon holds anytime witnesses come and testify about something which included in that is a penalty, you're always going to be liable, even if you already came and admitted to it and exempted yourself from paying the penalty. They can come and override you. So all this brisa is saying is that the only time you're going to be exempt if you come on your own, admit to the penalty, doing something wrong, and witnesses never came to override you. But if they do come to override you, then they override you and you're going to be liable. But the point is, we were never asking according to this opinion. Our whole question was according to the other opinion that holds that if you would come to admit to a penalty, you're going to be exempt, even if witnesses come afterwards. They cannot override you. According to that opinion, what happens if witnesses deny testimony by the case of a penalty? And according to that opinion, we remain inconclusive. We don't know. We tried to give proofs, and we remain inconclusive. This last proof is going according to the other opinion, which we never had a problem with. Yeah. Okay. Mashpiani aleichem im lo tavo v'teidu shani Cohen shani Levi she'eni ben grusha she'eni ben chalutza. So here you're going to see it very explicitly that denying testimony about non-financial cases will not obligate you in the oath of testimony. It has to be regarding money. For example, a guy says, I'm making you swear that you're not going to come and be my Adam. That basically that you don't know any testimony, that I'm a Kohen, that I'm a Levi, that I'm not the product of a Ben Grusha, of a divorcee, or a Ben Chalutza, who did chalitza, because those children of a Kohen who marries a divorced, children of somebody who's a ben chalutza, they are also they're not allowed to do they're not allowed to do certain services, certain privileges of being a Kohen. So so there you see it. So if that happens, so then, or you say Sheish Ploni Kohen, you want to testify about that guy is a Kohen, or that guy's a Levi, or that guy is not a Ben Grusha, not the son of a divorcee, or She'ena Ben Chalutza, or not the son of a Ben Chalutza. So here there's another novelty. You can't make witnesses swear about somebody else. The plaintiff himself has to come and make you swear. He has to say, come and swear about me that I'm not a Kohen. But if you make them swear about someone else that he's not a Kohen, and then they're found to be liars, meaning they say, we have no idea who he is, and they're like, oh, actually, we do know who he is. So that's not going to be liable for this oath. So two novelties. One has to be regarding finances. You have to deny testimony that it's going to have a financial implication, consequence. Sorry, but it's a good word, consequence. And two is the plaintiff himself has to come and make these witnesses swear. And then if they deny it, they'll be liable. But they're swearing about someone else, and the plaintiff never, not me, then they won't be liable to this shul. Okay. Last part of the Mishnah says, Sha'anas ish ploni as bito. So come and testify that that person raped his daughter or seduced his daughter. So once again, it's not the plaintiff himself, but he seduced his daughter, he raped his daughter. It's not going to work. That father has to come and testify. So that's he'll be exempt for that. Also, shechabal bi bini. A guy says, my own son. He's getting witness that his own son hit him. Now, if his own son hits him, or shechabal bi chaverai, what, his friends hit him? One second, I'm not sure about that case, but when the son hits him, the son is liable death penalty, and therefore he's exempt from paying. Right? On the one hand, he hit his father, so he's liable death penalty, and he broke his arm, so he has to pay. But you're exempt from paying because you're getting the death penalty of the son. So, what's the case of shechabal bi chaverai? What, his friends hit him, and they're liable death penalty also?
Damage isn't.
Oh, sorry. His friends hit him on Shabbos and caused him to bleed, or they lit up his field on Shabbos, they lit it on fire. So both of those, you're liable to death penalty. You hit somebody on Shabbos and they start bleeding. It could be even if the blood rises to the surface. Like, if you get blue, that might also be a problem. That's a problem of Kollel. It's like taking someone's life. It's called Natilas Neshama. That you're liable to death penalty. You got to be careful. So, that or lighting up my field on Shabbos. So if witnesses come and deny testimony that either the guy's son hit him, or that his friends hit him on Shabbos, or that they lit his field on fire on Shabbos, if they come and deny testimony about that, then they're found to be liars. They're exempt from this korban. Why? Because all three of these cases are cases where the death penalty, overrides the damages. Meaning you're getting the death penalty here and you're exempt from damages. So the witnesses, in essence, didn't deny testimony about a case that has a financial consequence. Rather, they denied testimony about a case that has death penalty consequences. So we're not saying that they did the right thing. They could be that they're liable for making a false oath. But for the oath of testimony, for those halachas about bringing this sacrifice, that they're going to be exempt for. Okay. Taima, the first case of this mission. Taima the ish ploni Kohen, the ish ploni Levi. So the reason why it sounds like we're going to make an implication from the first line of the Mishnah. So the reason why I'm exempt in the first case of the Mishnah, and the witnesses are exempt if they're found to be liars, is because they're testifying about something which has no financial implication. Taima the ish ploni Kohen, ish ploni Levi. You're saying he's a Kohen. You're saying he's a Levi. There's no financial implication involved in that. So You say maybe if you get to Aliyah and you're the Mishaber afterwards, you have to give money to the shul. It's like, okay, that's indirect causation. Presents. Right. That sounds like it'd be indirect causation of money. Yeah, good. So, yeah. So, right, by not saying it's a Kohen, now you can't give him certain things. Yeah, very good. That would probably be indirect causation. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So, but it's saying now that if I'm testifying about, come and say that he's a Kohen, he's a Levi, you're going to be, and they deny, and if you have to be liars, they're exempt. Why? No direct financial consequences. But it sounds like Halmanin, if you say, come and testify that really Reuven has Shimon $100 in his hands. It sounds like in that case, you're going to be chayav. Now, this is a case where the plaintiff is not telling them to testify. Their friend, Reuven has a good friend, and he wants to help Reuven out. So the friend is saying, you guys better testify that Reuven has, Shimon owes Reuven money. So it sounds like that would you be chayav for, even if the plaintiff himself is not getting them to testify. What's the problem? Hakatani Seifa, the end of the Mishnah says, so not the end of the Mishnah coming up in a daf and half. It says the rule is the plaintiff has to himself make the witnesses swear about his own case. You can't make them swear about someone else's case. So that goes against the implication of our Mishnah. So Amar Shmuel, while the Mishnah is talking about the Ba B'Harsha, you're like the POA, you're the power of attorney. You came not as a shaliach. A shaliach's not going to help us. You're not a messenger, but you have written authority that you're taking over the case. You're the power of attorney. So if you come with the power of attorney, then you could make them swear about Reuven being owed money from Shimon, and that is going to work because basically you're like the plaintiff. You're the one in charge. You're the power of attorney. The problem is v'hamina hardai, aside like a little bit of a side problem. Lokasina orkasam metalfli. We don't write power of attorney documents on movables, only on real estate. So says the Gemara. Well, hold on. When do we say that hanimili heicha de kafri? Abal heicha de lo kafri kasvina. If the person denied, it sounds like if the person denied, if the plaintiff and a defendant, if the defendant denied that he owes, so then when it comes to movables, we don't write a power of attorney. But if the defendant never denied anything, so you can write a power of attorney form even for movables. So you want to get your money out of somebody. Now you put someone else, it's a funny thing, not a messenger. You don't send the mafiosa guy, but you put someone else in charge of the case. You're the power of attorney. You go take care of it. So that person can go and make two witnesses swear that Reuven is owed money by Shimon, and if they're found to be liars, they deny testimony, and they're found to be liars, they'll be liable for the oath of testimony. Okay.
There's no food in the fish and in this course they're lying about not.
They can deny. If they don't know, they can deny.
They don't know, right?
They can say we don't know.
If they put something, but
they can't.
Just if they're found to be liars, they're going to be liable.
They're going to be liable. But they're.
What are you saying? If someone makes you make an oath, can they say no, thank you?
Yeah, like
that's what you mean.
Yeah, like you can't because in the criminal. If you're implicating yourself on the stand, say you're a witness, you're coming in, you just have to fit, and they can't force you to testify.
You're asking, can you get out of this oath?
You can just say, I don't want to.
Guys, like you two better testify that you don't know anything about the case. Right. Good question.
Even if you're in question your own doc, if you really know, maybe do help.
If you really know testimony, then you have to testify. The mitzvah, you have to testify. But if you don't know testimony and you don't want to make an oath, oaths are scary.
Like, well, what if you forgot to? Something's 15 years old. Yeah.
I'm sorry, officer. I was drinking. I forgot I couldn't drink and drive.
I could think of court cases. I think of court cases where I had were 4 years old, and I don't know anything. And then
that's like back in the day. They had doc. Everything was written.
You get a report, and then I remember.
Maybe you're a shogeg. Okay, so there's a brisa now that is going to show 4 opinions with 4 different sources of how we know that by this oath you're liable for. You're only liable this oath to bring the sacrifice if you denied something regarding, and you found to be a liar regarding money. So I'll try to get through a little bit of it, and then we're going to go through all the opinions tomorrow on Shabbos. We'll go through all 4 opinions. So let's just get the words down in the next minute before Jules gives a desk there. Yeah. So, Tanner Rabbanan. Always pick on Jules. I don't know. So, Tanner Rabbanan. Minayin she'ena kasam daber ela b'tvias mamon. The Torah is only telling us about claims of money. It's an easy price. So the words are, there's no back and forth. Just simple statements. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, nothing is simple. This one's simple. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, how do I know? It says the word oath so many times in the section of oath of testimony. V'nemar lahalan, and it says by the oath of deposit, some deposits an object by you. There's also an oath over there. It says oath there too. So you're learning oath from here to oath from there. Malahalan, just like by the oath of deposits. Einam daber ela b'tvias mamon. It's only referring to financial dealings. Afkan einam daber ela b'tvias mamon. It's only referring to financial dealings. Oh, there's a little back and forth. Sorry, I lied. Owen de rotzeach yochichu. It says the word "oh" many times by the parsha of killing somebody. Why don't you learn from there? So shehein Owen, and there by killing somebody, it's not talking about finances, it's talking about death. Umadabrin shelo b'tvias mamon. Says the no. If you learn from one of the two, learn from the one that's most similar to it. Done in Owen sheishiman shvua, me Owen sheishiman shvua. Both the oath of testimony and the oath of deposit both have an oath. Just killing somebody, there's no oath.